Hello everyone and welcome to yet another video. Today I'm making a completely different type of video, a video about my own car, which is a 2022 Mazda CX-5. It is a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated gasoline engine with 187 horsepower and 250 Newton meters of torque. I have the GT trim here, which is the best trim you can get while staying with this naturally aspirated engine. Your other option is it's also a 2.5 liter gasoline engine. That one's a turbo and it has 250 horsepower with 320 Newton meters of torque. They are both coupled with a 6-speed automatic transmission, and as of 2022, they all come standard with all-wheel drive, even the base models. I bought this car in February 2022, so I've had it for 13 months and I racked up 21,166 kilometers. So how this video is going to go is that we're going to start with the POV driving, and then we're going to do the interior, and lastly, we're going to do the exterior. The reason why I decided to do it this way is that while you can find photos of the interior and the exterior pretty much everywhere, it's really hard to actually hear first-person experience and insights about the car. And as far as I'm aware, this is the only video of a facelift Mazda CX-5 with a naturally aspirated engine. So that's what I wanted to talk about. I'm in Montreal right now and our roads are terrible. So I apologize for that in advance. So why did I buy this car? I had different options. Obviously, I could have gone for a RAV4, a CR-V, a Forester, Ford Escape, and the contenders from Chevrolet and GMC and everything. Why I chose the CX-5? It was basically love at first sight. I had my eye on a RAV4 or a Corolla Cross, and just for fun, I wanted to go check out Mazda. I went there, loved the car, and pretty much made the order on the spot. I've obviously made my research about the car before. I wouldn't just buy a car without doing any research, obviously. But I loved this car, so I decided to buy it. As I mentioned, this was the GT trim. This is the GT trim. It's the best you can get while staying with the naturally aspirated engine. And it basically has everything I'm looking for. It has a heads-up display. It has heated and cooled seats in front, heated and ventilated. I apologize, there's a difference. Heated seats in the back. We have leather seats. Driver seat has memory positions, 2 memory positions, so they're memory seats. Both driver and passenger seats are electric powered, power controlled. We have blind spot monitors. We have adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, and something that we don't see in cars of this segment is rain sensing wipers, which is a rare option here in Canada. They're quite popular in Europe. I don't know why they're not popular here in North America. Anyway, this car has it. It's great in rain, but it's not so great in snow. But actually, this car has a function that I've never seen before. It has the option to turn it off. That's a nice quirk. Other than that, we have, I don't know if I mentioned it, a leather wrapped steering wheel. It's also heated. It's only heated on these sides, so not the entire wheel, but still better than nothing. Right now, we're doing 47 kilometers an hour, which is about 30 miles an hour, and it's really quiet. This is one of the advantages of this car. It's definitely much quieter than the competition. The RAV4, the CR-V, the Forester. I had the chance to try the RAV4 in particular. I drove it around 400 kilometers from Montreal to Ottawa and back. And I was on the phone with my parents through CarPlay and I couldn't hear them, which was weird. But yeah, so it was a really loud car. Another thing I love about this car, beyond the amount of features that it has, is the material quality. We'll talk more about it when I talk about the interior in the second part of the video, but for now, I'm going to leave it at that. In the last 13 months, have I had any problems? I had a small issue with the transmission, which resulted in them completely replacing the transmission for no reason, in my opinion. Yeah, so they replaced the transmission pretty much for no reason because it didn't solve my problem. And then they ended up changing one of the mounts, which completely solved it. Anyway, aside from that, I didn't have any issues. I'm really happy with this car. I'll talk more about its exterior, how it looks, how it feels on the outside. Yeah, I've been really happy with this car. In terms of performance, I will tell you more about it when we're on the highway or when we get on better roads, because right now the roads are quite rough. But this is what they call the scenic route, so we're going with it. The heads-up display was something that I thought I couldn't get at this price point, but I was just happy that I managed to get it. We have an auto-dimming mirror, which is a must in North America because people aren't really good with their low and high beams. I see a lot of cars with their high beams on for no reason. However, this one is not the one that the car came with. Mine came with a framed auto-dimming mirror. In terms of the ride, I'm sure you can hear the bumps on the road. That is because the ride is on the sportier side. This, among the grocery getters, is the sportier one. It looks it from the outside, it feels it, and when you drive it, it definitely feels sportier. The steering wheel is much heavier than the steering wheel that you would get on a RAV4 or a CR-V. My friend has a 2014 Ford Escape. His steering is much lighter than mine. I like its design. I like how thick it is. It's really nice. You can actually feel it. It also handles great, and you can actually feel the steering input, which is something that I appreciate in a car like this. Aside from that, again, this being the GT trim, it has leather seats, it has a Bose sound system. We have this 10.25-inch infotainment screen. It is not a touch screen, but it has navigation, CarPlay, Android Auto. CarPlay and Android Auto are wired, and you would need an adapter to make it wireless. I made a video about it already, but regardless, I love that screen. It's really high resolution. It's 1920 by 720. You control it with the commander knob, if I'm not mistaken. This is in regular mode, but you can definitely feel the bumps. We do not have paddle shifters. They come with the turbo engines. However, you do have a manual mode, and the manual mode is wired the correct way. So you push to downshift and pull to upshift. In sport mode, it definitely pulls. It's not on the level of a 250 horsepower turbo engine, but it definitely moves. It is definitely better than what you would get on a regular grocery getter. It is a 6-speed automatic transmission. It is a torque converter. It's not a dual clutch. It's not a CVT. I'm glad that it's not a CVT. It could have been a dual clutch, but it shifts quite well, and it's definitely well adjusted for this car. It's really well calibrated, and it's one of those quote-unquote learning transmissions, so it'll definitely adapt to the way you drive. But yeah, I am really happy with the fact that this is not a CVT. And one advantage of a naturally aspirated engine is that you can rev it, and it definitely sounds good. We're gonna do that again. Now we're in sport mode. We have 3 driving modes: sport, normal, and off-road. We were in sport. Obviously, the second you put it in sport, well, I put it in normal, it was on the 6th gear. Right now, 6th gear. The second I put it in sport, it's in the 4th gear, which makes sense because you do not want to lose time shifting. Now we're gonna see. Now 3rd gear. Not bad. Yeah, so 21,000 kilometers. I don't drive like this. I drive quite calm. Usually I just set the adaptive cruise control and let the transmission do its thing. Let the systems do their thing, unless I really want to feel the car. Speaking of cruise control, let's set the adaptive cruise control and see how well it works. Right now it's set at 160 kilometers an hour. I'm gonna take it down to 110. And before I can show you the adaptive cruise, I'm going to show you the lane keep. This definitely doesn't have a lane centering system. You see the ping pong effect. Now it's going to notice the other lane again. It vibrated my steering wheel and basically stopped putting input. So yeah, in some cars you get lane centering, and I actually tried that on a Toyota RAV4 and Camry. They did work differently. I think the one on the Camry worked much better, but the RAV4, as long as it detected the lanes, it did quite well. But on the Camry, I drove it from Montreal to Quebec City, and basically I had the lane centering on the entire time, and it was great. Yeah, so that's one feature that I wish the CX-5 had. So the signature trim, the top trim, has something like that, but only for the city and not for the highways. What I would appreciate is the regular lane keep system, or no lane keep at all up until 70 kilometers an hour, and beyond that, a lane centering system. Speaking of the dashboard, it is a screen in the middle, but you don't see much. We'll talk more about that. It doesn't let you change any settings here. All it does is to let you change modes. When you change modes, it'll change color. Right now I'm in off-road mode. Now I'm in normal. It will not let me shift to sport mode when I have the adaptive cruise on, which is interesting. Speaking of adaptive cruise, one feature that I wish that it had is that if you're behind the car and if you're traveling below the set speed limit, as in like the limit that you set, not the posted speed limit, say you're in the right lane behind the truck and you want to change lanes. When you put on the indicator, it'll give you a little push. Some cars will give you a little push so you can overtake that car. That is a fantastic feature. I wish all cars had it. The Toyotas, again, they have it. Not the Mazda, but again, a feature that I can live without. Another thing that I like about this car, it has traffic sign recognition. It has rain sensing wipers, as I mentioned. It has automatic headlights. It has automatic high beams. It has adaptive headlights. They're all LED. I'm gonna get back to the features, but I just wanted to tell you again that I really like naturally aspirated engines that have enough power. Enough is obviously subjective. 187 horsepower is enough in my book. So I am really happy with its performance. I like that it's quiet and refined and linear in lower RPMs. And if you want a lot of performance, if you want a decent performance, you have to press on the pedal. And it definitely moves. One thing I like about the manual mode is that I can take advantage of engine braking. It basically shifts to fourth gear at 40 kilometers an hour, third to 30 kilometers an hour, and it basically follows that until 60 kilometers, at which point it will stay at 60. It will stay on the sixth gear as long as you don't push the accelerator more than a certain point. It definitely has the power to maintain decent speeds on the sixth gear, which I really appreciate. We have a sunroof, but it's not a panoramic sunroof. When I bought the car, I was told that Mazda doesn't believe in panoramic sunroofs. What they meant to say is that Mazda did not want to spend the extra money to make sure that a panoramic sunroof was as safe as they wanted it to be. However, when the CX-50 came out, they broke their promise and came out with a pano sunroof. I appreciate that. I wish this car also had it, but again, I'm just happy that I have a sunroof. As I mentioned already, we don't have a start-stop system, so the engine will keep running. However, what we do have is a cylinder deactivation technology. Therefore, if all the conditions are met, it will shut off 2 of the cylinders and it will run on 2 cylinders. That is a nice feature, and it works for the most part on the highway, about 80-90 kilometers an hour, but I've seen it work at like 110, 120 as well. Another thing that I'm going to mention is the electronic parking brake, which we definitely have. And right now it's on. My foot on the brake, I put it in drive. Most cars will disengage the parking brake now, but I put off my foot off the brake and we're not moving because the parking brake is on. What I have to do is to press on the gas pedal and it's released. that is an interesting feature, and I do wish that it was the other way around. So when you put the car in drive, it should definitely disengage the parking brake. Let me talk to you about the fuel consumption. I recently drove to Ottawa and back, which is a 400-kilometer drive, and I had the cruise control on for the most part, set at 110 kilometers an hour, and I averaged 6.7 liters per 100 kilometers. In my opinion, that is a great value, considering the fact that even a Corolla would get around 5.5 liters per 100 kilometer, and this car is, well, it weighs 1,600 kilograms. It has a 2.5 liter engine, all-wheel drive. I think that's impressive. In the city though, you will get up to, well, 11-12 liters per 100 kilometers. I've had this car for 21,000 kilometers and I averaged 10.4 liters per 100 kilometers. Now we're in sport mode, manual mode activated. We're going uphill. And we hit 100 kilometers an hour. So in terms of the power, the only place where it lacks, you just saw it, is on the second gear below 2,500 RPMs. Anything above 2,500 RPMs on the second gear, perfect. And on other gears, it will just shift down a gear, therefore you will not feel it. Another thing about the adaptive cruise control, it's just doing it as I speak. It tends to downshift for no reason, I'm gonna say. Most of the time, it can definitely reach the speed that you set on a higher gear, but it just chooses not to. Instead, it'll shift down one, or when it deems necessary, 2 gears. Aside from that, as you can hear, there's some road noise, but that's mainly because of my winter tires. My winter tires are on 17-inch rims. They are not the same rims as the car came with. My summers are 19 inches. They are of the size 225, 55, 19. And my winters are also OEM size 225, 65, 17. I'm going to turn on my adaptive cruise control again and turn down the speed a little, just so that you can see how close it follows, how it reacts and everything. What it does in the city, in stop and go traffic, is that it will stop on its own and move as long as you don't stop for more than 3 seconds. If you do stop for more than 3 seconds, it shifted down again for no reason. It could have stayed on the 6th gear. If you do stop for more than 3 seconds, all you need to do is to press the reset button again and it will keep going. That is really, really useful in stop and go traffic, especially in big cities like Montreal and Toronto. I actually tried this in both cities, and it works really, really well. It works really well as long as you don't have a lot of line cutters. I mentioned the cylinder deactivation stuff. It works really well. You would not be able to see, there we go, it just shifted down to 2 cylinders. You would not be able to tell when it shifts to 2-cylinder mode unless you're the driver. You can you can barely tell that it switches. If you're the passenger, I don't think you can, and you really need to pay attention to it. Anyway, the heads-up display, it will show you directions from the navigation system as long as you use the car's own navigation system. If you use Android Auto or CarPlay, it will not show you any directions. On the CX-50, if you use Android Auto, not on CarPlay, only on Android Auto, if you do turn on Google Maps, it will give you directions, which I think is a good option, but I don't use, well, I have an iPhone, I'm filming with my iPhone right now, so I don't really use Android Auto. I actually do have Android Auto right now, but it is not because I have an Android phone. Right now I'm testing another phone, so I'm doing that at the same time. And it's always nice to have your navigation screen. Now that we stopped, let's talk about the interior. And let's start with the dashboard. Looking at it from this angle, you would not be able to tell that it came out in 2017. That is mainly because they designed it really well back in 2017, But a contributing factor is this infotainment screen, which is new to the models 2021 and up. Prior to 2021, there used to be a smaller screen here that had a worse interface. However, that one was touch enabled, and we'll talk about how to control this infotainment screen when I switch to the front seats. But for now, let's talk about the headroom and the legroom. I'm 6 feet tall and the seat in front of me is adjusted for myself. In this situation, I have about 4 fingers of legroom and 4 fingers of headroom. The legroom situation is thanks to the seats that are ever so slightly indented, which gives me more space. Speaking of the seats, we have a seat pocket here, which is lined, and air vents right underneath the seats. Another thing I really like about this car is the material quality. Let's start with the doors. This is soft touch, this is wood, we have chrome, soft touch, soft touch, soft touch / leather. This trim piece I installed myself, but from the factory it comes as piano black. We have stitching here, and we have a seat pocket here which is not lined. Speaking of material quality, the seats are really nice. So the top trim gets Napa leather if I'm not mistaken, but even on this trim level, we get stitched and perforated leather, and the stitches are brown. Another thing that screams quality in this car is the fact that these seats can be folded 40-20-40. Therefore, I can fold this seat by itself, I can fold the middle seat by itself, or I can fold this one with the middle seat. To fold the middle seat, you pull on this and it folds down. This is great if you have skis or wooden planks, and I used it a couple times since I bought the car. However, this must be a non-popular option as they removed it in the new CX-50. Also, to shut this, you have to put a little bit of an effort, and unlike the other seats, when you fold them back up, it doesn't make a satisfying noise, so you can't tell for sure if it's in place. The headrests are of the same quality as the seats, and I really like that. We have air vents in the middle. You can control the amount of air that comes out of them from the knob. However, there is no screen here to control the AC. We have an armrest, and in the armrest we have 2 cup holders and our heated seat controls. We also have some storage space, which is also lined, so great. And we have 2 USB ports for charging. And with this, we can switch to the front seats. Alright, so now that we're done with the back seats, let's talk about the front seats. And let's start with our instrument cluster. As you can see, it's a pretty basic cluster. We have our tachometer, we have our fuel gauge, and we have our temperature gauge. In the middle, we have a screen that doesn't show us much, aside from trip A, trip B, adaptive cruise settings, as well as lane keep and blind spot monitor, our service indicator, and that's pretty much it. The only way you can see the screen in action is when you change the driving mode from normal to sport or from normal to off-road. As is often the case with Japanese cars, we have our stick here. This is mainly used to change the brightness, but if you press and hold, you can control the informations on the side. When you press and hold once, they disappear. Press and hold again, you get them as bars. And lastly, press and hold again, you will get them as the way I like them. If you press once, it changes from kilometers to miles per hour. Press once more, it's back to kilometers. Let's continue with the steering wheel. Alright, so as I mentioned, it's a leather-wrapped steering wheel. The thickness is good. It definitely feels like a premium car. It's also quite heavy, as I mentioned. It is a heated steering wheel, but it's only heated here and here. Better than nothing. Also, if you're in the market for a CX-5 and if you don't have that many pictures, this part of the steering wheel, if it's filled, it means you have heated steering wheel. If it's not filled, if there's a hole in here, it's not heated. Let's continue with the buttons. We have our infotainment buttons, as well as this button to change what you see on the screen here. And on the right side, we have our adaptive cruise settings. Again, the quality is really good, except this plastic, which is quite hard. And when you honk, it hits this plastic, which is also not super high quality. This is also the same quality. And the joint here is not of the highest quality, especially on the right side. Anyway, we have our indicator stock as well as our wiper stock. They're pretty good. On the left side, we have our trunk button as well as the button to turn off lane keep assist. We also have the buttons to pop the hood and the fuel door. And on the left side, we see that the quality didn't change from the back seats. We still have soft touch, stitches, wood, chrome, soft touch, soft touch, soft touch. It's the same material I mentioned. We have one touch up and down windows. The rear windows don't go all the way down, but that's due to the curvature of the doors, so I can't really complain. And underneath that, again, we have the stitches and we have our side pocket with a lining this time. We also have our memory seats. Both seats are power controlled. The driver's seat has 2 memory options. Let me show you that real quick. I move the seat back a little, press 1, it's back. I move it back again just to show you. I take the car out of park. We're in drive right now. I press 1, nothing happens. So in order to control in order to use the memory seats, the car has to be in park. Anyway, underneath the steering wheel, we have our pedals. The gas pedal is floor mounted, which is a nice plus. They were in aluminum like this. I bought this from AliExpress. They're pretty good. There's also an OEM version directly from Mazda. However, I found them to be of better quality. The brake pedal replaces the plastic one, and the gas pedal, you put the metal one on top of the plastic one. Just to show you a little bit of the quality of the car. That's perfect. You see the textured metal that can also be found here, and obviously here, and for the infotainment controls. Now that we're done with the driver's seat and the door trims, let's talk about the trims here. It's also soft touch, soft touch. This is hard plastic due to the heads-up display. Soft touch, we have our speaker here, and soft touch all over. We also have stitching, as usual. We have our wood, we have our chrome, we have our hazard lights here. This is also soft touch, and underneath this, it's all hard plastic. The AC controls are exactly what you would expect from a Japanese car. They're very easy to control. You can set your temperature, turn it off. We have our heated and cooled seats. And we have the button to turn on the heated steering wheel. Aside from those, we have a wireless charger, which can charge your phone up to 10 watts. Which is great until it overheats in around 10 minutes. And this white light here, it starts blinking red. We also have a 12-volt power socket here, which is pretty good. The stitching continues here, which is also good. Here we have our shifter. It's a very classic shifter. There's a button up behind. Press, you can put it in drive, and then you have your manual mode, up, down. This is the correct orientation. You push to downshift, pull to upshift. And we have our driving modes. I put it in off-road mode, and the noise that the car makes just changed. Put it back in normal, and we're back to normal. Park, turn on the electronic park brake, and let's talk about the infotainment. We have navigation, which is a good plus. However, as I mentioned, this is not a touchscreen. That's not a big deal to me at all, unless I'm typing an address. Even then, this is not bad. I can do it, or I can just use my phone to send an address to the car. That's a nice plus, I think. What is not a nice plus is the fact that over 9 kilometers an hour, it does not let you put an address through this interface. That's great if I'm the only one in the car, if I'm the driver. But if I have a passenger in this seat, they could just use it to put an address. Anyway, aside from that, it's very easy to use. We have our settings. As I mentioned before, this is the first time I see an option to turn off rain sensing wipers. You can change quite a lot of settings. You can change the settings for this screen, for the heads-up display, for pretty much everything. Aside from that, I'm gonna show you these buttons again. And I'm gonna show you the buttons here. Can you please tell me what I'm missing? Yeah, a source button. So instead of a source button, Mazda opted to let the users press the music button twice and the source list would come out. That is amazing, except when you're listening to music through CarPlay or Android Auto. Then pressing this twice doesn't do anything. In that case, you have to get out of CarPlay, which can be done by pressing and holding this button, and then pressing the music button twice. Or you can simply just use your favorites. Another thing to note here, I'm gonna mute the screen, the music. So for example, we're at channel 10. I'm going to press this and it doesn't do anything. That's because these buttons are wired to replay. So for example, I listen to a song, I want to listen to it again, I can just press this. But in order for me to change channel, this is really counterintuitive. I have to press this once, do channel list, and then choose whichever channel that I want to listen to. That doesn't make sense. Fortunately, I can still use my favorites, but I would expect better from Mazda. With that, let's talk about this mirror. I told you already that I installed it. There used to be a framed auto dimming mirror. We have our garage controls. We have the camera we have the system for the lane keep. We have my dash cam. We have the lights. These used to be incandescent. I replaced them with LEDs. And we have our sunroof control. And this is the sunroof in question. It's a pretty basic one. I mean, it can tilt up and move back. And we have a manual curtain. We have our sun visors. I haven't changed these yet. There's a card holder, which is quite nice. You can also take it out and you can extend it. With that, I'm done with the front seats. The only thing that I forgot to mention is the glove box. There we go, it works perfectly well. It's very well lined. This is great, it's like velour. However, well, it's of medium size, no light in it, and it's not cooled. By the way, something that I forgot to mention is the rear view camera. The resolution is pretty good. Well, now it's in a horrible position, so I'm parked right by a wall. But as you can see, it doesn't take up the whole screen. It does take up the whole screen if you opt for the 360 camera. However, at this trim level, this is all you get. And now we can talk about the outside. All right, so this Mazda, it came out in 2017. Let me get to a better position. It came out in 2017, had a facelift in 2022, and still being produced as of 2023. Eventually, it's going to be replaced by the CX-50, but it's still being sold. The CX-3, which is right there, was replaced by the CX-30, and I'm pretty sure it was still being produced in 2022. So the CX-5 still has about 3 years to go. The first thing you notice when you look at the car, not only the side, is the color. It's called Soul Red Metallic, and it's, I think, the best color that Mazda came out with. Well, I guess it's now superseded by the new red on the CX-90. This is a great color. It looks great when it's clean, dirty, during the day, at night, whatever. However, one disadvantage of it is the fact that it's quite weak. I've had this car for 13 months and I have a bunch of chips from rocks. Anyway, all right, so before I proceed also, let's talk about these rims. These are my winter rims. I have my summers on 19s. I will add a picture of them, but these are, well, this is what the winter rims look like. In front, we see the results of the facelift, which is a new grille, a new bumper, new headlights, which are all LED, including daytime lights, side markers, low beams, high beams, and the turn signals. Sorry, the lights had shut themselves off. That's something Mazda does. It doesn't let you keep the headlights on. It doesn't let you keep anything on. It'll shut itself off. to conserve the battery. All right, so the side. This is one aspect of the CX-5 that hasn't been touched since 2017. Regardless, I think it looks great. These pieces, the matte black pieces, they might come as piano black or body colored depending on the trim that you get. On the Sport design, they're piano black, and on Signature, which is the top trim, they are body colored. Another thing, there's the hockey stick. They call it the hockey stick, the chrome trim. It does look like a hockey stick. Some people don't like it. They plastic dip it, or I don't know, they wrap it or something. I like it. I like the side profile of the car. It looks better with the 19s, but still not bad with the 17s. Also, above a certain trim, the rear windows and the rear glass and the rear side windows, they come dark directly from the factory. Mine also did that. Regardless, I got the front windows tinted 35%, rears tinted 50%, 50%, the sunroof also 50%, and the windshield, if I recall correctly, that was 80%. You might have questions about the windshield. I have no regrets, it's great. Doesn't block any light, blocks a lot of heat, no complaints. One thing that people talk about is the fact that these turn signals are really small. Well, they can clearly be seen from the side, they can clearly be seen even when there's light, and you have more turn signals anyway. Looking at the back, we see the effects of the facelift again. Mainly, the tail lights have been changed. They're also LED. I have a pet peeve about these. I want my turn signals to be LED. No matter what, even if I didn't get a car that had LED turn signals, I was gonna replace them. I'm lucky. Here we have our backup camera, which is mandated in the US and Canada since, I don't even know, 2017, 2018. We have our rear wiper. There's a better place for this. It should have been here. Come down like this. So this would look cleaner. I hate this trend, and I don't know, it's one of the useless things ever. One of the most pointless things ever, actually. The fact that some people remove their rear windshield wipers, rear wipers. I don't know why. Anyway, dual exhausts on a car that has a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine with 187 horsepower. Weird that the RAV4 and everything, they also have dual exhausts. Let's do the most pointless thing ever and pop the hood. This is going to be a challenge and a half with one hand. Yep, this is an engine. That's all I have to say about it. Skyactiv, direct injection, 2.5 liters, 187 horsepower, 252 Newton meters of torque. I'll add the American version of it. I don't know what it is in pound-feet. Not much to say. There are no hood struts. It's not one of those fancy ones. I ordered a kit. One thing I like about these cars is that you can easily just get whatever you want. And that's what I've been doing. I ordered them, should be here tomorrow. It was about 20 bucks. Seems like a decent investment. Right underneath the hood, we have the Mazda logo, which houses the sensor for the adaptive cruise control. And if I were to get a turbo engine, I would have some red accents there. And I think for diesels, it's yellow. For naturally aspirated, it's natural, so nothing. As you can clearly see, there are no fog lights. They were removed with the facelift. I had this car washed not half an hour ago. Look at this. All kinds of dirt. This is fine. But look at this. Granted, it was one of those automatic car washers, the touchless ones, but I still paid money for this. All right, so the trunk. It's obviously electric, but it's not kick sensor activated. You have to press the button. The speed is not that bad. You can obviously stop it wherever you want to, and then it'll go back up. There's a way of setting it. I've never tried it. Let's start with some numbers. So the space that you have behind the second row, which is that, is 871 liters. That is a lower number than what you would get in a RAV4 or a CRV or most of the competition. Regardless, I think it's a decent size. Also, it obviously has some tricks up its sleeve. I'm gonna start with something that I don't like, which is this light. It was yellow when I first got the car. I replaced it with an LED 5-minute job. Great. You can turn it off, on. It'll automatically turn off once you shut the trunk. But that doesn't do much. What I would appreciate is 2 lights on each side. Anyway, keep going. So this cargo floor, you can adjust its height. You see these rails? It can go up, creating more space underneath for your personal stuff, or it can go down, creating more space for your stuff above. It consists of 4 pieces. This can go, this can come back and go whatever. We have the spare tire, which is not something we see common. It's a temporary one, so you can only drive for 80-90 kilometers. Regardless, it's not bad. We have our subwoofer for the Bose sound system. We also have some storage space here. It's gonna be hard for me to close it. There we go. And with that, I'm going to put this back. We have a 12-volt socket, which is directly connected to the battery, which is not a good thing, because I know myself, if I plug something in here, I'm gonna forget about it, and it's gonna drain my battery. That being said, Mazda does a decent job managing its battery, so I'm sure it'll shut off the socket. Another thing I like is this cargo cover, which doesn't come standard with the car. I had to pay 160 bucks for it. You might ask yourself, you might go like, oh, like this must come with the top trim. Nope, it doesn't come with any trims. So you have to buy this yourself. It costs around 160 bucks. Does a decent job though. One quick note, I know the engine's running, but one quick note. I got this cargo mat directly from the dealer as I took delivery of the car. But as you can see, it's not 4 pieces. It also doesn't fit well. This is the cargo mat for the older models, and they're not the same as the ones for 2022 and 2023. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you liked it, dislike if you disliked it, drop a comment, and please subscribe so I can make more videos. Thank you.